Hey everybody, Rosematter here. Welcome to part 6 of my Chaos Head Noah Let's Play. Last episode, we learned the identities of a couple of characters, a couple of the girls that we have run into in the story so far. So first there was Fez, the leader of Phantasm, who, of course, just happens to go to our school. And we are just learning this information now. No one seems to bat an eye about the fact that the lead singer of a pretty popular band is also going to our school, and I believe her name is Ayase. Misumi tried to talk to her. She was saying something about a sword. And then on the note of the sword, the girl that we saw with the sword a couple of episodes ago is also a girl who goes to her school, the kind of rude one from a few episodes back. Her name, I believe, was Senna, and she had a sword, and then she kept asking our character, like, do you see the sword? So these swords are popping up. Characters are looking for swords. They have swords. Apparently only certain people can see them. And with the new gen murder, the newest one, things are just like popping off now. And we have run into the detectives, the two detectives that were introduced a few episodes ago. And Takumi basically was as sus as possible, saying that he didn't do it. And then he ended up like confessing that he saw a girl in a sume uniform. And she's the murderer, and she's like a demon, and she's gonna kill him. So they're like, the detectives seem a little bit incredulous, but they're like, okay, we'll keep in contact with you, we'll protect you, all that stuff. But now he's on the police's radar, so that's not good. So with that, let's get back into it. Let's see what shenanigans Takumi's gonna get into this time.
うわ、覚醒バージョン残すエロすぎ。パンモノじゃんか。だがそれがいい。顔かわいいよ顔。原作再現度はいまいちだけど、プンプンと漂うエロスが木島よしおらしさだよな。これはこれでグッジョブ。上着キャストオフとか、この角度からじゃほとんど全裸にしか見えんひょー。髪の動きがいいよな。覚醒バージョンは髪が命って持論があるわけだが、間違ってなかったな。さて、それではお待ちかね。パンツいってみようか。どれどれ。
I'm kind of like, I want to see what it looks like.
V ゾーンの作り込みいいよ。シワの付き方リアルだしって。おお、これスージーさん。
Oh my gosh.
すげえ。マジですげえ。クオリティ高し。
Awesome sauce. God, I haven't used that term since high school. A word used to express excitement or appreciation on the internet, a very high compliment.
これセーラ単5作目にして早くも最高傑作爆誕じゃねえ。これ以上すごいのなんて出せないってマジで。やっぱ木島は神。
I carefully stood my new Seraton next to my monitor. Sarah, you're so sexy, Sarah. Simply looking over at her made me grin uncontrollably. Life was good. I logged on it and immediately started posting my impressions of my new Seraton figure on @channel. When I finished doing that, I went to check my email and checked to see if any of my friends on FreePara had posted any updates.
おっと、前触れ申請来てるじゃん。誰これ。セーラコミュの人か。はいはい、ゲイですよ。
Now then, time for ESO. But the very second I thought that, alright, who was it? Was it Shogun? Is it Shogun? I felt chills on the nape of my neck. It was the gaze complete with its usual intense presence. Whose eyes are those eyes? Nope, alright. Damn it, this was not the time. Okay. What did I pick last time? Did I pick a positive one or a negative one? It was a negative one, right, because it was when Fez chopped off Mishimi's arm. So let's go with the positive one, even though this doesn't seem like this is a positive situation. Maybe Sarah, maybe she'll like come to life and talk to him. When I had first started feeling the gaze, or when had I first started feeling the gaze, I had long since forgotten. It slithered its way into each and every part of my life, bothering the shit out of me all the way. There were a lot of things that disturbed my peace, but the gaze was right up there with Nanami as the most irritating thing I had to deal with. Fine then, let's do this. The "it'll take more than that to make me turn around" game. Still fixated on my monitor, I tried to think of some cool lines you'd hear in a manga.
貴様、出てこい。僕の目をごまかせるとでも思ったか。甘いな。
バレちゃった。
当たり前だ。僕の後ろに立つなと何度言えば。
Huh? Was that a woman's voice just now? Goosebumps stood up all over my body. Had the reclusive owner of the gaze finally decided to show themselves? Was that even possible? Should I turn around and see who it was? But what if she attacked me the moment I did? It was a fairly cute-sounding voice, but what if, in reality, a monster far removed from anything human was standing there? No, 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 if that were the case, wouldn't that mean they were getting ready to attack me right now? If I didn't turn around now, I wouldn't even notice if they killed me. Maybe I should say something else to see if they'd respond. It was possible the voice I'd heard was just a hallucination or delusion or something, so that would help confirm it. And I mean, I talk to my Seroton figure all the time in my head. It had to be the same thing. I tried to be bold and ask, "Who are you?" but I hesitated. If I was to provoke the attacker, it could have very easily spelled the end of me. It could have caused her to finally stop waiting and attack me. So many delusions ran through my head that I found myself completely paralyzed. What should I do? Maybe the whole thing was a product of my own design. I was just being the world's biggest dumbass. I swear if the owner of the gaze wasn't here, and I'd just been sitting here trembling in fear over nothing, I was gonna kill myself.
あれ、タク？固まってる？
Oh god, it really wasn't a hallucination or a delusion. There was someone right behind me. Startled, I reflexively turned around. Hey, there she is.
どうもどうも。
The demon girl. The girl sitting on the sofa was undeniably the same one I had seen at the crucifixion crime scene. And now, for some reason, I couldn't comprehend she was just standing there, looking at me, smiling. I still can't get over the fact that I know he said he doesn't know, like, her height or her measurements, but could he not have been like, it's a girl with bright pink hair? I can't imagine there are too many girls who go to the school that have bright pink hair. Oh, fuck, oh, fuck, oh, fuck. That is, unless, like, she was a figment of his imagination, she doesn't exist. She'd finally come to kill me. It had to be because of the detectives I talked to. She'd seen me do it with her clairvoyance. After that, she'd infiltrated my base without making a sound, took up a position in which she could kill me at any moment, and now she was reveling in my fear as I cried and screamed in terror. It couldn't be anything else. Don't kill me, I tried to scream, but I was just too terrified to make a sound.
コケコッコ？
Tilting her neck to the side, the demon girl unleashed a strange incantation. It had to be some demonic tongue. She was cursing me. In hopes of gaining as much distance as possible from her, I went to hide underneath my desk. Problem was, I was so shaken that I ended up bashing my head into the edge of it, rendering me unable to move as I writhed in pain.
何やってるの、タク？今すっごい音したよ。コツンって。
Even now, the demon girl was keeping up her amused smile. But it had to be a trap, one built to lull me into a false sense of security. The second I let my guard down, she would swoop in and end me. Or maybe she already had with that curse she'd placed on me a minute ago. In a few days, my entire body would suddenly start spewing blood everywhere, and I'd die right then and there.
頼むよ。殺さないで。
I got down on my hands and knees, cradling my head between my arms. Those goddamn detectives had completely fucked me over.
警察に喋ったこと謝るから。
警察？
それに話してもちっとも信じてもらえてなかったし。
It was a lie meant to buy me some time. The older detective had said he'd guarantee my safety. If he was doing his job properly, he had to have sent at least one officer over to my place. Upon thinking that, I suddenly realized. I'd given the old man my phone number, but I hadn't given him my address.
ビシッ。
Suddenly, the demon girl assumed a pose resembling a salute. And what was just as if not more strange was what she had said. It was almost like a sound effect. Was it another demonic curse?
独り言はやめるべし。殺さないでとか、警察がどうとか、私には何のことかさっぱりだよ。
What? What was she trying to play dumb? Or was this her roundabout way of threatening me, and in actuality she was saying, forget the truth, act as if nothing ever happened? What the hell was she thinking? Hadn't she come here to kill me?
ほら、立てる？立とう。
The demon girl got up from the couch and reached her hand out to me. Her expression was so gentle. Now that I was seeing her up close, she was actually pretty cute. Well, Yua was pretty sweet too, and she probably still is, but I mean, she also can be quite scary. Damn it, I was letting her get to me. Stopped acting like a goddamn idiot. Was I seriously calling a demon pretty cute? She was a murderer. She used Yua and Shogun to trap me. Now she had come to finish me off herself. Don't trust her. I'd already learned my lesson back with Yua. I'd never make the same mistake again. I refused to take her hand. Don't be deceived by this demon girl's smile. She was a demon trying to tempt me. If I gave in to the temptation, I'd die. Trust no one. Don't believe anything. Don't believe anything anyone says.
だって
I refuse.
見たんだ。
Oh, I thought he was gonna say, but I refuse.
お前が人を殺してるとこ。
あのさ、タク。それ、かなりひどいこと言ってるって気づいてる？まさか殺人犯呼ばわりされるなんてね。たはは。
What was she gonna do with me?
ニュージェネの
Just like with the guy in the fourth case, was she gonna...
殺すんでしょう。それとも岩とか将軍とかがいる場所に連れてって。
ユア？将軍？誰それ？
Maybe the three of them had decided to work together. That way I wouldn't be able to fight back when they'd beat me to death.
そんなのやだ。助けて。
じゃあね、私を殺人犯扱いしなければ助けてあげる。
Like, is this happening right now? Is this girl actually here? The door seems shut, though. Like, it seems like it's locked. So that was her true goal. But then that whole thing with Yua, like, I thought that itself was a delusion, but it wasn't.
そんなビビらないでよ。いちいち私がへこむようなリアクションしてくれるよね。
お願いだ。もう二度と誰にも喋らないから。だから見逃して。
もしもーし。タク？ちょっと落ち着こう。
This bitch acting like we were close or something, calling me Taku and shit. Wait, actually, how did she know my name? She'd already known it back when we first met at the crucifixion crime scene. How? How did she know it? And also, how had she known where my base was?
当然でしょ。あなたの名前を知ってるのは。
I'm thinking either somehow she's Sarah, because Sarah's got pink hair too, although her pre-transformation, she's got brown hair, or I'm wondering if maybe she's like someone he went to school with, like way back in the day, like maybe she was one of the students who survived the bus crash or something. Had she just read my mind? I knew she was clairvoyant. She knew my name, my address, all because she'd used her powers on me.
タクって結構独り言多いよね。前から思ってたことだけど。
You've always done that, right? So someone that she knows from, like, she knows him from the past. Always. How long was she talking? Wait, had I been talking to myself out loud just now? I hadn't been aware of it at all. Was that really true? Had I really been talking to myself out loud? Or was it possible she was just lying to me and in actuality she'd read my mind?
タクの名前を知らないわけないよ。私、物覚えはそんなに良くない方だけど。友達の名前くらい覚えるよ。
Oh shit. So it's like a childhood friend he's forgotten about? Maybe he has PTSD, he just somehow like wiped her from his memory? Friends?
それともタク、私のことバカにしてる？そりゃ私、テストの点数はそんなに良くないけど。面と向かってそういうこと言われると傷ついちゃうな。
Was someone here crazy? But who was it? Me? Her?
もしかして、転校生。
そういえば近いうちに転校生が来るらしいよ。ツカチン先生が言ってた。
Oh, into our class? So what, she's in his class and he never noticed her? That's got to be the blonde girl from like the first episode that they showed. She's got to be the transfer student. There were two different conversations going on here. My terror from earlier, together with the anxiety of having no idea when I'd get killed, was starting to fade. But rushing in to replace it was a completely new kind of dread, slithering in to slowly erode my mind.
もしもし、その顔はまさかまだ信じてくれてない？
The game is very good at putting us in kind of the mindset of Taku, or Takumi, where it's just like, you feel like you're going crazy, he feels like he's crazy, he's kind of doesn't understand what's happening in the world, you don't understand what's happening.
誰だ？
Who was she? A murderer, a demon girl, that was who.
タクこそクラスメートの顔を覚えてないんだ。ひどー。
Did she say classmate? So we weren't just friends, but classmates too?
でもまあしょうがないか。タクはあんまり学校来ないもんね。だからって私の存在丸ごとなかったことにするのはどうかと思う。私の名前本当に忘れちゃった？そんなことないよね。知ってるでしょ？あなたは知ってるはず。
Remy.
そう正解。賞金50円プレゼント。
So he knew that, but he doesn't know why he knows that or how he knows that.
なんだ、やっぱり覚えててくれたんだね。よかったよかった。
How? Was it true? Was the demon girl's name really Remy? Why had that name suddenly popped into my head just now? Why did I know this girl's name? Maybe she really was my classmate and friend and I'd just forgotten? No, there was no way. I'd never even heard of the name. Sakihata Remy. It had to be a fake name. It had to be that when I'd said Remy, she just decided that that would be her name right then and there. It was like one of those spam emails from a Nigerian prince that used your personal info. Besides, other than Yua, I'd never met a 3D girl who talked to me like we were this close in my life. And Yua was the demon girl's underling. Wait, that was it. What the girl calling herself Sakihata was doing right now was exactly the same as what Yua had done. This temptress knew I wasn't used to interacting with 3D girls, so she was attempting to lead me into a trap by behaving all friendly and trying to seduce me. It was the exact same strategy. And the thing is, while I barely remembered my classmates' faces at all, and I didn't plan to either, I could say with absolute certainty I'd never seen this girl's face in the same classroom as me before. Probably. Damn it, I couldn't completely rule it out. After all, whenever I was at school, I was usually glued to my desk until the final bell, pretending to sleep, having delusions, staring at my desk or feigning reading my textbooks. I didn't do anything else. Well, you do. You ask Misumi, of course he's gonna know about all the cute girls, especially like if she's actually in their classroom. I had next to no memory of my classmates' names and faces, so I didn't even try to remember any. Which was it? Was she telling the truth, or was it all a lie? No, it didn't matter whether or not we were classmates, because the one thing I knew for sure, the one hard, indisputable fact, was that she had committed murder.
もしかして本気で思い出せないの？さっき頭打ったせいで記憶喪失になっちゃった？
The demon girl reached for my head. I retreated back under the desk to try and avoid her.
タク、変だよ。じゃあ大地に聞いてみて。そしたらタクも思い出せるかも。
Daijin? What the hell was that? Was that a person? It's Daisuke, right? Or some sort of secret code? Another demonic
大
incantation?
地だよ、大地。
Yeah.
三角大輔。
She knew Misumi-kun's name? Not only that, but she was calling him Daichin? She wouldn't call him that unless they were really close.
ちょっと待ってね。
The demon girl reached for a bag on the sofa, a bag that wasn't mine, and took out a cell phone.
大臣はと。よし、オッケー。
After a bit of fiddling with the phone, she held it out to me. When I made no motion to take it, the demon girl forced a smile and quickly grabbed my hand.
ほら、固まってないで。
She forced me to hold the cell phone. The demon girl's hand was soft, just a little bit cold. I expected it to be a lot colder, almost like ice, but it wasn't nearly that bad. I guess even murderers have blood flowing through their veins. And because her hand was unexpectedly feminine, my heart started to thump. No, don't fall for it. She's a demon. I'll never let her seduce me. I'm not into 3D. Lend me your power, Seraton.
たく、携帯使ったことないの？電話機は耳に当てるんだよ。
Tilting her head, the demon girl peered at my face from point-blank range. With her hand still grabbing mine, she brought the phone up to my ear. But before she did, I quickly looked at the screen. A registered name, Daichin, was displayed, and it looked like it was already calling them. No escape, I pressed the receiver up against my ear. I heard the sound of the phone ringing. Eventually, that sound stopped, and in its place... Oh, what the fuck? What the hell? Come on now. What is... What's happening? Were they saying that to me, or to the demon girl? Why had they said that? The person on the other end remained silent. They didn't say who they were. It sounded like they were downtown or something, as I could hear a bunch of noise coming through the receiver. I was so confused. My voice wouldn't come out. I had no idea what to say. Misumi-kun, or at least that's who I thought it was, quickly reverted to his normal tone. Rimi. Sakihata Rimi. Misumi-kun knew her? Well, it wasn't like there was anything unusual. Misumi-kun was a natural-born playboy after all. It wouldn't be surprising if he had gone out with a demon girl in the past, or even if they were in a super intimate relationship now. That didn't matter to me, though. What I needed to know was whether the demon girl was my classmate or not.
たく、大臣出た？
The demon girl once again peered at my face. Shit, she was way too close. I turned my back to her and spoke into the receiver.
僕、西条。
なんだ、タクか。リミと一緒にいるのか？
Well, why had he responded so nonchalantly? Him acting so natural made it sound like me being with the demon girl was an everyday occurrence or something.
またリミに振り回されてるのか？
Again.
お前も。でもよ、一つだけ言っていいか？お前、そろそろ自分の携帯変えよ。
Was the person on the other end really Misumi-kun? For example, there was the possibility the demon girl had made a phone call to someone who sounded like... See? I talked about this before. They brought this whole thing about how he hated calling people on the phone because of the whole thing is like, what if who you're talking to isn't actually who you're talking to? Maybe this person who sounded like Misumi-kun was just another underling of hers, and he was only pretending to be Misumi-kun in order to trick me. I was starting to doubt anything and everything. I didn't know what was true and what was a lie. Yep, same. Hold on. What the hell kind of trap was the demon girl trying to make me fall into anyway? Why bother with a trap this elaborate? In a situation like this, wouldn't it be easier and quicker for her to just go ahead and kill me already? Or was there some reason behind it? Some kind of prerequisite saying she had to trick me, even if it meant taking it this slow. No, maybe it was some hidden camera type thing spearheaded by Misumi-kun. The girl wasn't actually my classmate, but Misumi-kun's girlfriend, and he'd sent her here in order to screw with me. That's fucking if. If that were the case, how the hell would I explain everything that had happened at the crucifixion crime scene?
で、タク、なんか用か？俺としては、野郎からの電話なんてあんま嬉しくねえんだけどな。
His tone of voice sounded exactly like Misumi-kun's. The more I heard, the more convinced I was the person on the other end had to be him.
女の口説き方でも教えてもらいたいのか？なわけねえか。
Should I start talking? I sensed a gaze on my back. The girl was staring at me. The chills on the back of my neck still hadn't gone away. What kind of expression was the demon girl making? I wanted to turn around and see for myself, but I was too scared.
で、なんなんだ今俺も女と一緒なんだよ。なるべく手短に頼むわ。
その、
なんだよ。早く言えって。
うちの
ん
クラス
ああ。うちのクラスがどうした？
いる
何が？
女子。
あ？
咲畑って名前の。
Despite steadily becoming more and more incoherent, I had somehow managed to explain myself. Suddenly, Misumi-kun stopped responding. Silence. However, I could still hear the noise of the city around him, so the call hadn't disconnected or anything. Why wasn't he talking? The next thing I heard was an extremely exaggerated sigh.
お前さ、ゲーム脳じゃねえの？
Gamer brain, a theory that claims people who play video games experience a chronic decline in emotional restraint and judgment due to conditions similar to dementia. This theory stemmed from recorded measurements showing the brains of those who play video games emit extremely low levels of beta waves compared to that of normal humans. It was widely publicized by the mass media and became a social issue for a period of time, but there were too many ambiguities present in the study, such as its methodology used to measure brainwaves, leaving some to doubt its credibility. Where did that come from? And not only was it completely out of left field, but he'd brought up that bullshit condition that had been coined despite having no scientific backing whatsoever.
それってリミのことだろ？リミの携帯でかけてきてるくせに、何バカなこと言ってんだお前。わかった。お前もしかして、リミに何か指図されてんだろ？いたずらか？ドッキリか？じゃあリミに伝えといてくれ。お前の低レベルのドッキリに引っかかるほど、俺はバカじゃねえってな。
ほんと？
何が？
本当にクラスメイト。
お前なあ、たまにしか学校来ねえから忘れちまったか？俺はともかく、お前は1年の時から同じクラスだろ？
The first year of high school.
この前だって、3人で一緒に映画見に行ったじゃ
Oh
ねえ
my
か。
gosh. Wow. Okay. Is this still part of his delusion? What the hell? I couldn't comprehend what the person that sounded like Misumi-kun was saying. He'd said the demon girl and I had been in the same class since first year, and that the three of us had seen a movie together pretty recently. Pretty recently, but when exactly?
俺がお前とダチになったのだって。最初はリミに付き合わされたのがきっかけだったしな。俺と同じで、リミも物好きだからよ。ニートのお前を気にかけてやってるのは、世界広しといえど、俺とリミぐらいだぜ。あ、それは言い過ぎか。
I always wondered, like, yeah, why does Misumi give him the, the time of day? The words I heard on the other end of the call, not a single one of them felt real to me. I had absolutely no memory of any of it. I couldn't acknowledge that any of that had happened in the past. I just couldn't. It was all some story that the person who sounded like Misumi-kun had made up. It couldn't be my past. The past could only be established as truth if a person remembered it. So if I didn't remember it, it wasn't true. What is it called? Jamais vu? Like, it's like deja vu, but jamais vu. It's like something you just don't remember happening at all.
っていうか、リミってマジで女っ気ないよな。おっと、これはあいつには言うなよ。
君は誰だ？
おいおい、マジでおかしくなったか？俺のことまで忘れたわけか？ゲームやりすぎ。
Unable to take it anymore, I hung up the phone. My breathing had gone extremely heavy without me noticing. The sweat that had been beading on my forehead showed no signs of stopping. In fact, it was increasing. Long trails of sweat trickled down my entire body, starting from my face and ending at my feet.
たく、汗びっしょりだよ。
The demon girl, looking worried about me, calmly offered me a handkerchief. A cute, patternless vermilion handkerchief, There was a faint floral scent to it. I was waiting for it to be the handkerchief from that blood thing, and he'd be like, no, this is another thing. That doesn't add up. What? Instead of taking it, I attempted to somehow maintain my composure and organize my thoughts about everything that was happening. But in the end, it didn't go too well. I was doubting anything and everything, causing all my thoughts to rapidly churn together in a chaotic whirlpool. Sighing in minor disappointment, the demon girl put away her handkerchief. And then, with a triumphant look on her face, she asked me a question.
で、大臣はなんて？
She was acting like she already knew the answer. I couldn't afford to answer her. What was she? An ordinary classmate of mine? Or a monster? I had no idea. Maybe I was the crazy one. Taking the chat with Shogun into consideration, I couldn't rule out the possibility that someone other than myself was controlling my body. Or maybe all my memories of the demon girl, the girl named Sakihata Rimi, had somehow gotten knocked right out of me due to some freak accident or something. At this point, I didn't know anything about myself for sure. Did I have amnesia? Did I sleepwalk? Or could it be something else entirely?
大丈夫？体、辛いならソファーで横になる？
The demon girl spoke to me kindly. Don't let your guard down. Anyone who acts nice to an otaku freak like me must have some kind of ulterior motive. I shook my head, putting my strong will to resist against the demon girl on full display. Then, using the same strength, I raised my head. Sweat got in my eyes, blurring my vision. The demon girl's face was a lot closer than I'd expected it to be. What color eyes were those?
なんで
なになに？
ここにいる？
なんでって、タクに会いに来たんだよ。もしかして、勝手に部屋に入ったこと、怒ってる？でもそれは、タクがちっとも返事してくれないから悪いんだよ。結構長い時間、ノックしてたんだから。
I thrusted the cell phone she'd given me back at her. As I watched the demon girl timidly take it back, I asked her once again.
なんで
今度は何？
ここにいる？
What was her reason for coming here? If she had come to kill me, she would have done it a long time ago. So why wasn't she doing anything?
ああ、ここに来た理由？ね。
The demon girl reached into her bag and pulled out a single sheet of paper.
はい。進路希望のプリント、持ってきてあげたの。
I found myself taking it from her without really thinking. She wasn't lying. The piece of paper did have post-graduation's aspirations written on it, along with 3 blank spaces to write your answers in. Was that it? Was that really all she had come for?
帰ってよ。
I don't want anything to do with her. I don't want anything to do with any 3D girls. This is a trap. Don't listen to her. This isn't reality. This is a game, one filled with bugs. There are way too many contradictions. It doesn't hold together as a proper story. Something that is confusing is, so like occasionally, I don't know, I can't believe I haven't brought this up before. Like this one here, like occasionally he'll have the delusions where it gives me the option to choose the positive or the negative ones. And usually you can tell it's a true delusion because the screen gets all wavy. But I realized I was like that moment with Yua where she confronted him, and now this here, despite the fact it gave me the option to choose how I react, and it did that, you know, like flashing thing, the screen's not all wavy, so like I guess that's when you can tell this is reality. But maybe the game itself is kind of like tricking me. But this does seem like this is reality, though. Like the question is, like, who is this girl? How did she get in? Because the place seems to be locked. And she's saying all this stuff about, like, how they know each other and they're friends, and I have no idea about any of this.
僕に関わらないでよ。
If you don't intend to kill me, then just leave me alone. I am me. Some me that isn't me may be friends with Sakihata Rimi, but that me has nothing to do with the current me. Cradling my head, I closed myself off completely. I kept trembling and trembling, envisioning that the girl known as Sakihata Rimi wasn't there anymore. Not long after, I heard the sound of the door opening, telling me the demon girl had left. In the midst of a pitch-black room, the pale light of a PC monitor cut through the darkness. Pictured on the screen was a Sarah screensaver from Bloodtoon, the animation. While there had been a girl by the name of Sakihata Rimi present in the container half a day prior, the only figure that remained was the container's owner, Nishijo Takumi. It was already 5 in the morning. In Takumi's daily life, he would play online games until dawn and then collapse onto the sofa once he could not keep his eyes open any longer. Even now, Takumi was asleep on the couch, twisted in a seemingly uncomfortable position. He never used his bed for sleep. He did indeed have a proper bed, but it was already occupied by manga, CDs, and other random piled-up media. He could never be bothered to tidy it up, so his bed had effectively been repurposed into his storeroom. Ever since then, he had utilized his 2-person sofa as his one and only place to sleep. A pained moan escaped from Takumi's lips. I'm just imagining, like, I could never sleep in a place where the bright light of the PC is shining directly on me. Perhaps he was having a nightmare. His entire body was perspiring, and his closed eyelids twitched and trembled. His expression was warped in agony, and he was tossing and turning so frequently he came very close to falling off the couch. Right before he did, however, his eyes suddenly and inexplicably shot open as he faced the ceiling. They were bloodshot, and his eyeballs were faintly convulsing. So interesting, too, it jumps back between... Actually, have we done third-person narration before? Probably, but it goes back and forth between Takumi, where he talks a lot through his perspective. But occasionally it does this as well, where the game is like kind of an outside voice. Still in that state, without blinking even a single time, he rose from the sofa. He slowly staggered toward the PC. Without sitting down, he moved the mouse as he stood before the desk. The screensaver disappeared, and his desktop showed itself. The pale light of the monitor shone on Takumi's face, illuminating his horrifyingly vacant expression. His body swayed back and forth, and his mouth hung slightly ajar. Drool seeped down his chin. His current state was a textbook example of sleepwalking. Ah, so he does sleepwalk. Okay. Delirious boy launched the web browser, then opened at channel. Okay, so this is why we're getting this perspective, is like, we're not getting it from his perspective because he's not aware of what he's doing right now. His movement itself was languid and slow, but he showed no hesitation in selecting a thread from the board related to NewGen. The board listed a total of around 60 threads, and Takumi slowly opened each of them one by one. And then, with his eyes remaining glued to the monitor, he began to type. Now, if only he had, like, set up a camera of himself, or like a video camera to record himself to see if he truly did sleepwalk. He repeated this action for each and every thread. Is he posting a Shogun? His posts were not particularly long, only housing a few characters each. It's probably Shogun, right? He's Shogun because that's the name of this chapter. But they all composed of the exact same sentence. Whose eyes are those eyes? Yep. And Shogun. Yep, there we go. Well, confirmed. Confirmed. Yua is a good little detective, isn't she? Okay, perfect. And now we're back at the doctor's office. I was wondering when this was going to happen. I went to the hospital first thing next morning. They hadn't confirmed it the last time I'd come here, but today they would definitely tell me I was normal. Dr. Takashina would remember me. I'd tell him, it's me, Nishijo. I was your patient until around 4 years ago, and then he'd tell me everything I needed to hear. I wasn't the crazy one. It was the demon girl and Misumi-kun. They were the crazy ones. That was definitely what he was going to say. This hospital opened at 8 in the morning, which was a little bit earlier than regular hospitals. That was the reason why I'd shown up right when it opened, and yet the seats in the lobby were already filled with countless middle-aged people or older. What the hell? Why? The hospital had just opened, so why were there so many people here? Don't you bastards know head starts are unfair? Come on, time, like you Come on, time, like you're supposed to, assholes. As I continued to insult them inside my head, I had no choice but to wait. I mean, every time I've gone to a clinic, I either have to be there at least an hour before open to get a good spot in line, or you're just screwed. If you come in anytime after that, they're already basically booked up for the day. About an hour passed before I really started to regret not having made an appointment. But right after I started thinking that, they called my name, and I was immediately relieved to know I wouldn't have to wait as long as last week. Maybe they're taking him in quickly because they're like, this boy is fucked up. We need to see him. Except the one waiting for me in the examination room wasn't Dr. Takashina, but some white-haired old man I had never seen before.
高階先生は
Noticing my confusion, the nurse standing right behind him, I think her name was Hasuki-san, gave an apologetic look.
高階先生はもういません。
He what?
もういないというか、過労がたたって先
Oh,
週
no.
末に倒れてしまわれてね。今週はそれでずっと休みだよ。
What? This couldn't be happening. My one and only ally. Wait, had he really collapsed from fatigue?
陰謀だ。悪魔女の陰謀だ。
No, they're probably like, oh, this is outside our, you're gonna need a different kind of doctor. We can't help you here.
西条さん
She had to have poisoned his food or sent him a death threat to scare him into submission or done some other horrible act to psychologically break him. This had to be the work of the demon girl. She was trying to isolate me from my ally so I'd be defenseless against her assault. There was no way in hell I was going to let anyone other than Dr. Takashina examine me. So instead of getting a checkup, I ran away from the hospital. That must be so scary to be in your mind like that, to be so adamant that...
くそ。
But then again, who knows with this game? Maybe he's right all along. Wouldn't that be wild? But like, to be so adamant and to feel so strongly that what you think is the truth, even though it's like so crazy, like conspiracy theories and things like that. But like in your head, you're the sane one and everyone else is crazy. And it's like, it's hard to get through people when they're that deep into it and they truly believe that. Leaning on the fence at the edge of the roof, I blankly stared up at the sky. The skies of Shibuya were dim and lifeless. You'd have to be crazy to call them clear.
病院にはもう行かない方がいい。
The demon girl's net was tightening around me. Maybe I already had nowhere to run. Maybe the detectives I'd met yesterday were imposters. Maybe in reality they'd been the demon girl's underlings all along, and they'd just been testing me. That had to be it. The timing had been way too perfect. The demon girl had broken into my room right after I had talked to them, for fuck's sake. She was a demon after all. She wasn't human. Controlling and manipulating the human mind would be child's play for her. I had no evidence of that, though, but at the same time, I had no evidence proving she wasn't a demon. Which meant the only way to stay alive was to just assume the worst-case scenario. Did I really have nobody on my side? It felt like everyone was against me. No matter where I looked, no matter who it was, all I saw was yet another one of the demon girl's underlings.
助けて。誰か助けてよ。
I mean, you could go see your family. Why didn't I have even a single ally? Why wouldn't anyone come save me? Why did only I have to suffer so much? I felt more helpless than ever. I just wanted something to support me. Someone who would protect me. Something that would protect me. I didn't care who or what it was, just someone, something. Please grant me salvation. And then, just as suddenly, Fess's, Kishimoto Ayase's face appeared in my mind. I remembered what she had said to me when we'd met at school. I'd been lost in my own delusions at the time, but Misumi-kun had told me what she had said. Find a sword. If you do, you will be granted salvation.
ケン。
If this was a game, I'd be the protagonist, and there would be a cliché story moment where I'd obtain the legendary sword and triumph over evil. At this point, I had heard the word sword from 2 different 3D girls recently, and in extremely close proximity at that. There still remained the possibility that Fez was on my side. Girl B, however, I think her name was Senna, had a pretty high chance of being one of the demon girl's underlings, judging by her attitude. Sword.
剣だ。剣を手に入れるんだ。そうすれば。
I started talking to myself like I had lost my mind. I was grasping at straws at this point. If I just get my hands on a sword, I might be freed from this nightmare. I couldn't help but hope for that. It wasn't that I believed what Fess had said about it granting me salvation. I just had nothing else to cling to. At the very least, I should do some research. I promptly tried searching for it online. I started off by checking to see if the swords Fess and Senna were carrying appeared in any anime, but I couldn't find anything, at least from the seasonals. I'd expected as much. I always checked out the newest anime after all. Considering there were upwards of 30 to 40 of them in one season, it'd really pile up on me if I tried to watch them all, so I just watched the first couple of episodes and figured out which ones to keep following from there. Naturally, since MewTube existed, I had no trouble completing my lineup from channels such as BS and CS. There was no way I would overlook any anime. And those swords weren't in any of the shows I had checked out. The swords both had extremely distinctive shapes, so if they'd showed up, I definitely would have remembered them. Although, if someone other than myself had been controlling me when I saw it, then there was nothing I could do about it. Next, I tried searching for the swords themselves, rather than anime they might have appeared in. Terms I knew well, such as ESO, Shangri-La Edge, kept popping up. I was making no progress. For fuck's sake, I was supposed to be able to find it quickly. I had a feeling Sana had used a more concrete name for it, but what had it been? Remember, the nightmare won't end unless you remember. D-sword, right? The D-sword? Hey, I remember things sometimes.
D-sword.
That was it. She had called it a D-sword. I quickly typed it in and ran a search. I got hits. Only 2 of them, though. Even so, I was already starting to think of those 2 links as my road to salvation. Holding back my excitement, I clicked on the top one first. Oh. Shit, the page was down. Damn it, what the hell? Okay, calm down, go back and look at the cache. Okay. I'm just reading it here. Oh. The page had an illustration on it. It must have been a recreation based on how the sword was described in various books. Okay. I just can't get over the wiki pedophilia. Alright, let's see. Go to tips. The Kame-tachi phenomenon, an extremely rare phenomenon in which the body is suddenly marked with a wound as if it had been cut by a sharp blade. Kame-tachi are wind yokai from the Koshinsu region of Japan. They have sharp, sickle-like claws on both hands, which local legend states are used to cut their victims, causing the phenomenon described above. The true cause behind why this phenomenon occurs has not yet been ascertained. Oh shoot, I should actually be reading that. I was like... Okay, I'm just giving it a quick look here. Why did it have to be such a niche sword to begin with? I mean, why couldn't it have been a sword like Excalibur or Kusanagi? You know, swords that were actually a big deal. No, this wasn't the time to piss and moan. Niche or mainstream, I didn't care as long as it could save me. I decided to research it a bit more. Continuing, I clicked the second link. The words, "I bought a D-sword," caught my eye specifically. Were D-swords something you could buy? The blog owner seemed to be male, so I could deduce it couldn't be the demon girl or Sen. Okay. The blog of a free soul with too much time, a diary where I screw around and talk about my daily life of jerking off and downing soda. I bought a sword today. It is called a D-sword, I think. Seriously, I can't get enough of all this shady stuff I've been picking up. Town Vanguard is a oasis for my soul. The only places in the entire Tokyo metropolitan area that has that shady vibe TV has are in Akiba. Even then, though, Akiba stores don't really scratch that itch for me, you know? All they've got is computers or porn or stuff like that. I can't say the same for TV, though. There used to be all sorts of shady shops in Shibuya, but they've been washed away along with the flow of time. Man, those were the days. What's amazing to me, though, is if you didn't know any better, TV totally looks like a store for noobs. The energy shown in the writing was way too different from Shogun's. Was he a completely unrelated third party? Or could he have deliberately changed his writing style? WTF? I knew no answer would come to me no matter how much I thought about it, so I gave up and stopped looking at the blog. More importantly, it seemed like the store he had mentioned, Town Vanguard, was located in Shibuya. What a coinky-dink. Okay, that's enough yearning for the good old days. I'm still wondering, though, who the hell named this thing a D-sword? It's this pretty huge toy, and it's got this real oomph to it, yeah, but even then I'd bet money on the fact the only reason it's at the store at all is because of the clerk. Yo-chan's interest. I mean, they recently put up... oh, I can't read the rest of it. Fantasy weapons section in the corners of the store. There's a bunch of stuff like a lightsaber and a light shuriken, but they were obviously fake. Was pretty disappointing, to be honest. I had a feeling that it was too good to be true, but I also had the feeling it was predestined, too. Looking at it from another angle, maybe the exact reason I'd run into the girl holding a D-sword in the middle of Shibuya twice was because the store was located there. Wait, wasn't underground stuff like this supposed to secretly be popular among a few minority groups in Shibuya? I'm pretty sure it was. Anyway, I went ahead and ran a search for Town Vanguard. It didn't seem to have an official site, but I did find a preview image of it on an online map. They didn't have an official site. That probably meant they didn't take online orders. Oh, he's like, oh no, I actually have to go into a store and talk to people. I tried searching for them as a seller on taboo auctions, but I didn't find anything, which meant I would have to go to the store in person. I really didn't want to go outside, but... I had now come to think of the sword as my sole only means of opposing the demon girl. I didn't have any idea what I would actually do after I got it, though I certainly wasn't brave enough to kill her with it, not even close. Even so, I had hoped that if I got my hands on a sword, I would be released somewhat from the terror that was tormenting me. The D-sword would be my protective charm, something I could depend on. There was something strangely alluring about that sword. It seemed like the store was located somewhere near Cat Street. Cat Street was a long, winding road next to Mejidori that ran from Shibuya to Harajuku. Apparently it had been built on top of an old stream that had been reclaimed a while back. There was a bunch of reasons as to why people started calling it Cat Street, such as it being frequented by feral cats, or that it was so narrow that only cats could use it. But it wasn't like it made a difference to me either way. Cat Street was pretty far away from my base. It took about 15 to 20 minutes to get there on foot. It'd be much faster by bike, but unfortunately I didn't have one. I decided to take a route that went past the front of the train station, then through Shoto via cutting through Miyashita Park. Quickening my pace a bit, I crossed the overpass that went over Meijidori. Oh, I'd finally arrived. I was starting to get really impatient. The sheer distance was pissing me off. Cat Street was nice and quiet compared to Center Guy, and it felt much more like Harajuku than Shibuya. The stores lining the streets here were only aimed at trend chasers I wanted nothing to do with. Fuck them, to be honest. Also, I feel like in Japan, it's pretty, like Tokyo specifically, 15 to 20 minute walk is... I don't think that'd be far, like... But that's just me. I guess when you don't want to be outside, any distance is pretty far. A highly fashion-conscious person who constantly changes their fashion sense depending on what is currently popular. Knowing how out of place I was just made me all the more pissed off. It was complete foreign territory. Every last one of the assholes around me thought they were so damn cool. There were even more couples sauntering around than in the shopping district. Whatever, they were probably just a bunch of broke shitheads trying to pretend they had money, so they were likely just window shopping. Waste of space. I was starting to regret coming here at all, but I reminded myself that all the suffering would be worth it once I got a sword, so I sucked it up and kept walking. In order to avoid making eye contact with anyone, I kept my eyes firmly trained on my map as I speed walked toward my destination. Town Vanguard was deep into a narrow side road that split off from Cat Street. Even though I had only gone one side street away from the main road, the atmosphere had changed dramatically. It was a narrow, cramped, filthy alley that no car could travel through. The street was lined with wooden houses, out-of-business stores with closed shutters, and the inevitable spray-painted graffiti that covered said shutters. Despite how nice it had looked from the outside with all its high-class name-brand stores, Cat Street 2 was nothing more than a superficial facade. And behind that facade lay a whole host of broken-down, mercilessly discarded junk heaps. Then again, I couldn't stand the place either way. Both the bullshit and the truth were foreign territory for me. The only home for me was ESO. Even for the back streets, though, Town Vanguard had an even smaller, darker atmosphere than I was expecting. I was finally starting to get why the blogger had called it shady. Even though an open sign was hanging on the door, it didn't exactly look like business was booming. And that was being generous. Thanks to that, it was extremely hard to convince myself to go in. How was I, a guy who couldn't even go into a Gyodin's shop by himself, supposed to enter a sketchy-ass store like this? I wanted to go home. No, I needed to get my hands on a sword, no matter what. Ugh, what should I do? I spent a little while trying and failing to get myself to go in. Not a single person came through the cramped alley. I had already spent 30 minutes waffling over what to do, but I still hadn't seen a single soul since I had gone off the road. All that happened was I would finally decide to suck it up and go in. But then I would realize I wasn't brave enough. Repeat ad nauseum. But I couldn't go home empty-handed. This was the only place I could get my hands on a D-sword. Even though my sense of reason told me that, my instincts made me hesitate to enter the shop. In my mind, I had a delusion where the clerk came out to me. Of course, she was a cute maid, and she talked to me with a voice straight out of an anime. She knew exactly what I wanted, and she held the D-sword out to me, friendly as could be. "Here you are. Please take this sword, master." Okay, that's enough. Chill out, me. Just as I was thinking about how much nicer it would be if things turned out that way, a lone 3D girl appeared from within the store, almost like she had somehow heard my thoughts. However, unlike my delusion, she was wearing disgustingly gaudy clothes, the type that made you think, what Indian tribe did she steal those from? But at the same time, despite the getup, she looked absolutely miserable. Talk about whiplash. Her hair was incredibly frizzy, to the point where it looked like her head had exploded, and creepy patterns were scrawled on the bandana she had twisted around it. She said she was a store worker and had come out after seeing me pacing outside. My delusion hadn't exactly become reality, but it wasn't like I'd expected it to. Before I knew what was happening, the clerk forcibly showed me inside, despite how reluctant I was to do so. I didn't even have the chance to turn her down. In the end, I found myself inside the store. It was all well and good that I had cleared the most difficult obstacle, but if this store was under the demon girl's control, and everything about the D-sword was just an elaborate trap to lure me to it, I wouldn't be allowed to complain if I got killed right here. My eyes darted around the store's dim interior. There wasn't a single customer. There we go, I'll buy that knight's armor. That'll protect me. The air was awfully stagnant and slightly hazy. The unpleasant odor of tobacco and mold mixed together and invaded my nostrils. It felt like I was going to be sick if I stayed here for any more than 5 minutes. Though I saw things that looked like products, it was difficult to judge whether or not they were actually for sale. I want to see what this girl looks like. The description makes her sound very interesting. All of them had been placed haphazardly, and there was no way to distinguish them from just plain old garbage. And it didn't help that not a single one of them had a price tag. I didn't notice it until after I'd come in, but there was a whole lot of porn and sex toys. Among them were devices you would see in rape humiliation type eroge, and I had no idea where to find a safe place to look. The store must have been a variety shop for adults or something. After forcing me into the store, the clerk sat down on a stool behind the counter, then proceeded to zone out as she smoked. She showed no indication she was going to continue meddling with me. She was probably a partial source of the haze in here. Even though it had been less than a minute since I'd come in, anxiety, a weird sense of pressure, and the embarrassment all combined with how sick I was feeling in the form of a disgusting sweat seeping out of my forehead. I wanted to get out of this otherworldly place as soon as possible. I had to hurry up and find a D-sword, quick. I walked toward the back as I looked throughout the store. I soon found the fantasy weapons section, which had been mentioned in the blog I'd found. This corner of the store was the only one that stood out to me. Numerous pole-shaped toys were neatly displayed. All the toys were tubes of some sort. They were different colors, but pretty much all of them were lightsabers. You could tell pretty easily from how shoddy they were that they were all bootleg. I doubted they would even glow. It seemed like the light shuriken talked about in the blog was sold out, which surprised me. Yet mixed in with the lightsabers was a single item that was clearly different from the rest. It only took one look for me to know it was a D-sword. It looked almost exactly like the illustration I had seen online. I went to pick it up. It was unexpectedly light. I wondered what it was made of, but it definitely seemed like some sort of soft vinyl. It wasn't sharp at all. The edges were slippery, and naturally it didn't hurt me in the slightest when I ran my fingers across it. Compared to the one Senna and Fez had, it was badly designed, had no sense of weight, and above all else, it didn't give me the sense it would sever anything with the slightest touch. Also, it looks basic as hell. The other ones were cool looking. Could it be fake? That worried me, but there wasn't anything else in the store that resembled a D-sword. Would this even give off light at all? The D-sword Fez had swung around at her show had pieces of glass embedded into it that gave off a blue light and looked extremely badass. But I didn't see a single shard of glass in the sword I was holding. Maybe I shouldn't buy it. The D-sword was so shoddily made I couldn't help but come to that conclusion, despite how long it had taken me to get here. But find a sword. If you do, you'll be granted salvation. I remembered Fez's words. Right, if I didn't buy it right here and now, I would lose my only chance of getting my hands on a D-sword. Maybe it only looked cheap, but once it recognized me as its true master, an incredible power would manifest within it. Or maybe I'd seen too much anime, or read one too many manga. But I had sensed that exact kind of unknown power in Senna and Fez's sword. So this sword should have it too, but... what to do? While my internal debate raged on, the clerk came up and stood right behind me without me noticing. With a melancholic smirk, she pointed at the D-sword and muttered, 10,000 yen, and I'll throw in a free bonus. How absurdly cheap it was made me doubt my own ears at first. I had amassed quite a bit of cash from RMT, and if it was only 10,000 yen, I could buy it simply by sacrificing a single figure. When I'd heard the price, when I'd realized it was the last one they had left, I'd come to an immediate decision. The bonus that had come with it was a cheap-looking bangle. To be frank, I didn't want it in the slightest. Everything after that was hell. Town Vanguard didn't do deliveries, so my only option was to lug it home myself. Toy or not, my excitement died instantly when I realized I'd have to carry the stupidly long sword right through the heart of Shibuya. But I had already paid for it, and the clerk adamantly refused to let me return it. This was a really intense form of humiliation roleplay, having to haul a huge toy like this down a fancy street. Just as I had come to expect, the DQN couples, dolled-up grills, and whatever other manner of sheep that passed me by all had the exact same mocking smiles. Every last one of you should just kill yourself. I focused intently on keeping my head down for the rest of the way home, having delusions all the way about swinging my newly bought D-sword at the innocent people in the middle of the road, viciously slaughtering piles and piles of them. Huff, huff. I had finally made it back. I'd started running when I was about halfway home, and I didn't stop until I got there, so I was gasping for air by the time I had reached my base. The ice-cold stares of the pedestrians were killing me. It was somewhat impressive Seta was able to endure this kind of embarrassment all the time. In a way, I even respected her for it. I could never do what she did. Ooh, someone's in there. Suddenly a sound came from a blind spot in the shadow of my base. Was someone there? Freezing in my tracks, I gulped. The pure white smile of the demon girl who called herself Rimi appeared in my mind. Maybe she had come back. Maybe this time she'd come to kill me for real. I bet it's like a cat or something. Maybe his sister. What should I do? Should I run? I sensed a presence. The light of the sunset etched someone's shadow onto the ground. One that I knew without a shadow of a doubt had to be female. I immediately readied my D-sword. When I actually tried holding it like that, though, it felt even less reliable than I'd expected it to. Senna's sword had felt incredibly intimidating, and it had a sense of overwhelming pressure that wouldn't allow anyone to get near it. But the D-sword I was holding didn't feel like that at all. Maybe it really was a fake. Could I really fight with something like this? There was no way. Even if I had a real one, I still couldn't do it. Not only that, but I hadn't realized how heavy it really was until I first started holding it just now. Maybe I was holding it wrong. In any case, it'd be impossible to even swing it like this. The shadow suddenly wavered. It was approaching me. I shut my eyes tight and haphazardly swung the sword in front of me. I knew I wouldn't be able to defeat my enemy this way. Even so, I had the faint hope that as long as I had this sword, it would somehow do something anyway. But I didn't feel it hit anything, nor did my enemy make a sound. I couldn't believe it. Could that single strike of mine have utterly annihilated the demon girl? If so, that would be the best shit to ever happen to... I knew it was his sister. When I opened my eyes, the one standing there wasn't the demon girl, but rather Nanami. She was looking at me with unmistakably judgmental eyes. All my strength disappeared instantly, and I dropped to the ground right where I'd been standing.
お前、脅かすなよ。
She was the worst little sister. Didn't she know how shitty it was to scare her own older brother like this, let alone enjoy it? Who the hell did she think she was? This was exactly why 3D would always pale in comparison to 2D.
別に脅かしてないよ。いつもみたいにお兄の生存確認しに来てあげたんじゃん。なのにお兄いないんだもん。なんでナナが30分もお兄のこと心配しながら待ってなくちゃいけないわけ？ナナの貴重な時間が無駄に消えてっちゃったじゃん。お兄のバカ。
Worried? This bitch was worried about me? As if I would ever fall for such an obvious lie.
で、どこ行ってたの？出かけるなんて珍しいじゃん。携帯にかけても繋がんないし。
I'd left my phone behind at my base. It wasn't like anyone was going to call me while I was out, so I'd see no point in ringing it.
そもそも、その件何なの？もしかして買ってきたの？
Nanami peered curiously at the sword.
あ、わかった。アニメのおもちゃかなんかでしょ？ほんと、お兄ってオタクさんだね。しかもこのおもちゃ、ちっとも似合ってないよ。さっきだってへっぴり腰で構えちゃってて、思い出したら笑えてきた。
Ignoring Nanami, I undid the lock on the door to the container house and made to go inside.
ちょっと、無視すんな。
帰れ。
If she'd just come to check if I was alive, then she'd got what she wanted, and she no longer had any reason to be here. She was always making fun of me, and every time she came over, she would do nothing but complain. She really was that put off by being here, then she didn't have to come at all. It was annoying anyway. It'd be no skin off my back if she stopped.
あのね、わざわざ様子見に来てあげてんだから、もっとありがたがってよ。せっかくお土産まで持ってきたのに。
Her voice was whiny as could be, and she pursed her lips. Is it another Garo, Froggy?
お土産？
そう、お母さんが持ってけって。ほら。
Nanami handed me a bag of clementines. There were about 10 of them, wrapped up in red netting. I guess, right? Get that vitamin C since he's not going out into the sun much. Weird. Something's fishy here. I'd eat clementines if they were right in front of me, but they weren't my favorite food or anything.
というわけで、ナナもちょっと一服したいから、一緒に食べてあげる。
帰れ。
もう、妹がお土産持ってきて、しかも一緒に食べてあげるって言ってるんだよ。もっと喜びなよ。
What exactly about eating clementines with Nanami was supposed to make me feel happy at all? I wonder if, like, before that whole incident when he was a kid, I wonder if they were close. I wonder if he was I guess more of a normal, quote unquote normal kid. Like, maybe they did have a closer relationship and he's still suffering from PTSD after what happened and he just shut everybody out. And besides, it was obvious she just wanted to eat clementines, and that was the whole reason why she'd come here. She'd been a badass ever since we were little, often stealing my portion to add to hers. I couldn't count the amount of times we'd fought over that. Well, that kind of answers that question, but that just seems like regular sibling stuff. Nanami, unable to take a hint, waltzed right on into my base. I gave up and followed in after her. I can only imagine what it smells like in this container. That's very nice of her to even want to spend time with him in here. I would probably just be like, can we eat outside? Why the hell would I have tea? I only drink cola and nothing else. Nanami sat down on the sofa and grabbed a clementine. Sighing, I set down the D-sword so it would lean against my computer desk. I had no reason to continue carrying the bangle in my pocket, so I just chucked it somewhere behind me.
あれ？それ何？
Quickly spotting the bangle I'd thrown on the floor, Nanami went to pick it up. Oh, I bet this is like...
かわいいバングルじゃん。
I bet this is like a magic thing or something. Like, is she gonna take it? Then maybe she'll get powers.
これも買ってきたの？お兄にしてはいいセンス。
Cute? How? This thing was nothing more than a piece of junk you'd get for 500 yen at worst. I couldn't believe how bad Nanami's taste was. Like, it looks... I see it. I think of the girls with the swords. I think, like, she's gonna take that with her and then somehow she's going to... Maybe she'll get a sword herself or something. I don't know. To me, I think it looks cool. Ignoring her once again, I nabbed one of the clementines and sat down in front of my PC.
ねえねえ、なんでこれ捨てちゃうの？
だっていらないし。
じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。
はあ？
いいじゃん、どうせ捨てるならさ。たまにはお兄ちゃんらしく妹にプレゼントの一つでもしてよ。
You call it a present, but it's just something I don't want that you suddenly decided to appropriate.
勝手に持ってけば。
ほんと？やったー。
Literally walking PMS. As soon as she got my approval, she put the bangle on her wrist. Takes a real cheap whore to get this excited over such a cheap piece of junk. Wow.
お兄、どう？似合う？
全然。
あ、そう。お兄のバーカ。
It was supposed to be a present, so why was she treating me like this? Little sisters weren't supposed to call their brothers mean names. You called her a whore. I mean, not to her face, but still. What were they teaching girls nowadays? Go play 100 eroge this instant.
バーカ。
She was grinning from ear to ear. I, meanwhile, was getting extremely pissed off.
これ気に入っちゃったからもう返さないもんね。っていうか、お兄からプレゼントもらうなんて初めてのような気がする。
Okay, I'm thinking like either this bangle is going to, this is going to be important in some way. Either it's going to do like, I don't know, it's going to give her something, I don't know, or she's going to end up dead. Maybe she'll be one of the future victims and they'll be able to tell like, oh, we retrieved this at the scene of the crime and it's the bangle. I assume that it's like something that's probably not mass produced since it was at that shop, so it's probably kind of a weird item. Maybe it's super rare, I don't know, but it's probably pretty unique. I could be wrong, could be like a mass produced piece of crap, but
しょうがないから大事にしてあげるよ。
as if I cared. No one asked you to take care of it. I didn't even get it for you in the first place.
もう用は済んだんだから帰れ。僕は暇じゃないんだ。邪魔するな。
The moment I said that, Nanami pursed her
そ
lips.
んな言い方しなくてもいいじゃん。それにみかんまだ食べてないし、お茶もまだ出してもらってないよ。
おめえに飲ませるお茶はねえ。
うっかー。
Nanami glared at me intently, hands on her hips. Before long, her eyes started welling up, and then...
わかったよ。そんなに邪魔なら帰る。
ああ、さっさと頼む。
お兄のバカ。お兄なんてみかんの皮で目つぶし食らって失明しちゃえ。あとバングルは返さないかんね。バカ。
Yelling in a migraine-inducing voice that resounded throughout the entire room, Nanami grabbed her bag and ran out with insane speed. I like that she keeps trying to do this, like, reverse psychology thing. Be like, alright, fine. If you don't want me here, then I'm gonna leave. Every time she says that, he's like, okay, bye. He doesn't even say bye. He's just like, yeah, go. Thank God, it was finally over. Hanging out with Nanami always took everything out of me. Why did she insist on coming here every week when I'd made it very clear I was sick of it? Read the room, for fuck's sake. Whoa, what's... Okay, this is something completely different. The first melt, Nozomi. Is that, that was the name that was on, like, that test he took, right? The psychological test, or am I totally off about that?
G レートの上昇率は当初の予測からわずかな誤差があった程度です。バイオリズムコントロールも順調なのかね。
Okay, this is completely different. This is out there. Okay, what is this? Biorhythm, a graph showing the cyclical changes in the physiological state, emotional imbalance, and intelligence of a biological organism. The term is often employed with the explanation of, on days when an organism's biorhythm is high, they will be in a good condition, but on days when the organism's biorhythm is low, they will be in... This almost seems like, what, this is something where they affect people's control, biorhythm control. So are they like brainwashing people? Like they're like affecting people? Like there was that thing with Nanami where she thought she saw something. She thought she saw her parents calling to her. Maybe she was affected by a biorhythm. And then there's like my character, maybe the reason why he just seems like he's going crazy and he's descending into madness, is maybe he's affected by whatever the heck this thing is?
渋谷の G レートは他のエリアと比べて高い値を持っていると同時に安定性についても特筆したものがあります。
They're saying it's stable though, so it's almost like the opposite. If anything, it feels like Shibuya is like it's kind of going crazy with people being killed and dying.
それゆえに意図的に操作しやすいということか。そして渋谷にいる人々のバイオリズムを急激に引き上げることもまだ。
Okay, so they're manipulating it. So that's the thing about these NewGen murders, right? I assume like it could all be done by one person, but maybe it's being done by multiple people. And whatever this Nozomi thing is, it's like they're affecting people's mental states in Shibuya, and that's why all these murders are happening.
実験結果についてはレポートをご参照ください。納得していただける成果を上げております。
It's interesting.
貴様が成果を出すのは当然だ。そのために高い金と多くの人材を提供しているのだからな。
実効性については理解しているよ。この数ヶ月だけでも我が会の信者が数倍に膨れ上がっているからね。
Okay, there's a what? Now there's a church? Has this been mentioned before? Like some sort of religion? Is someone affecting people's mental states so that like it's like a cult or a church or something, a religion, and it's increasing in members?
それではプロジェクトノアは次の段階へと進ませます。
Chaos Head Noah.
よろしいですね。
Like Noah's Ark? This is like a religious thing? What?
コードサンプルの件はどうするのだ。すでに3人分は確保したとはいえ、目標数値には達しておらんではないか。
いかにも。数値達成のためには最低でも5人分はなければ厳しい。
サンプル保持者は集まりつつあります。あとは採取するのみ。ならばその件は任せる。
信仰の救いあれ。くれぐれも慎重にことを進めるように。
はい、心得ております。
That was okay. They just threw a lot of information at us there.
そろそろ寝るか。
Stifling a yawn, I looked at the clock on my PC. It was 5 a.m. I'd spent another entire day grinding on ESO, but no monsters had ended up dropping the rare items I was looking for. I'd been binging it for about 8 hours straight, but still no luck. Meh, that happened to me all the time, though. I glanced over to the side of my computer desk. The D sword I had bought yesterday was still leaning against it. I had set it there within reach of me so I could grab it at any moment. Speaking of the sword, the damn thing hadn't glowed at all. I'd been hoping that it'd transform into some new badass form like the one Senna had, but I'd been similarly out of luck there too. On my monitor, Grimm's avatar just leveled up. My 9 heart was already max level, so he wouldn't go any higher. It's probably about time to pick a new character. My 3rd after Lieselot, I thought to myself as I rubbed my sleepy eyes. Experience sure was something. It was a well-known concept in RPGs, but I figured EXP existed in real life too. Back when I'd first started playing ESO, I'd been a total nobody who didn't know right from left, but now I was known far and wide as lightning fast 9 hard, the most powerful player in Baselard. Let's say the person controlling me has lost a chunk of my EXP for some reason or another. If that had happened, then it would make complete sense why I'd forgotten things. It could also be where the discrepancies in my memory had come from. Things like Shogun and the Demon Girl. Before a chunk of my EXP got wiped, maybe it was perfectly normal for me, the person controlling me, to post in chat rooms under the handle Shogun, and for me to live like a complete normie with the Demon Girl. No, that just wasn't possible. But if it was possible, then maybe I used to possess an incredible power that would allow me to oppose the Demon Girl. Was I the only person who thought like this? I didn't really feel like it was a particularly weird way of thinking. Human beings could only really make judgments based on their own sense of values that they'd come up with themselves. So maybe it wasn't just me living my day-to-day life making the wrong decisions, but everyone in the entire world. Back when I was little, I'd gone to the dentist, and I remembered them telling me, "You did such a good job putting up with that much pain. You were a very good patient." At the time, I thought I was amazing for making it through to the end, and I felt really proud of myself. Thinking back on it now, though, that comment was probably based on the degree of pain felt compared to the progression of the cavity. But even if the level of pain was the same, there would be people that could bear the pain, and there'd be people who couldn't. In other words, I came to realize that how someone recognized and felt such sensations completely depended on the person. Childbirth, for example, I'd often seen on the internet that women could endure the pain of it, but it would be completely impossible for men. Another example would be marathon runners. Maybe they excelled not because of their physical strength, but because of their ability to endure pain. There was also sadists and masochists. If they were people that found pleasure, or if there were people that found pleasure in being hurt, there would also be people that derived pleasure from hurting others. In other words, I believed the way people felt things, along with their ability to handle pain and suffering, varied from person to person. Perhaps the level of pain in the toothaches and headaches I got from time to time actually far surpassed the limits of pain any ordinary person could take. Is he just basically being like, I'm just built different? And if that were true, perhaps I'd pass the same pain on to someone else. The sheer agony would cause them to go into shock and die. The conclusion I ended up coming to as a result of this line of thinking was more or less a self-righteous delusion that perhaps I was special.
特殊な人間か。っていうか、何を大げさな。
Although I denied it, I was sure every person had delusions like this. Every man longs to be the strongest in the world. Every human being wants to think that they're special, that they're the chosen one. We all want to think a dramatic story full of twists and turns like the ones you'd find in TV and movies is waiting for us in the future. The so-called desire to be a hero, or to be blunt, textbook chunibyo stuff. Of course, even I had those kinds of desires. It could very well be my destiny to triumph over the demon girl. But if that really was my destiny and I had to make it come true, I'd need a number of conditions to be met first. At the very least, I absolutely needed the ability to use cheats, be it cheat codes for special attacks or maybe even a god mode of some kind. I didn't want to deal with pain or fear. Video game terminology to modify game data using game-altering tools. In recent years, many video games have been equipped with cheats intentionally by the developers. Secret commands are one type of cheat code. If I couldn't cheat in some way, or in other words, if I was supposed to achieve that with my own power, there was no way I'd be able to do it. Which was why, if the person controlling me had lost all of my EXP, that would be a huge blow to me. A super effective one. I just barely got to school on time. It probably wasn't the best idea to stay up playing video until early in the morning on a school night. I'd have to run in order to make it on time. When I got to the classroom door, I stopped and took deep breaths to try and catch my breath. I couldn't act in a way that'd make me stand out to my classmates. For me, even something like being late would be fatal. If the DQN's eyes all zeroed in on me, my life would be over. I slowly made my way into the classroom, keeping my head down. I couldn't let myself make eye contact with anyone. Of course, I didn't give a mindless greeting like, "Good morning," either. Trying to make my presence as undetectable as possible, I made myself invisible and turned toward my seat. That was how I always did things. Is he gonna see the girl there all of a sudden, like he'll notice the pink-haired girl? What was her name? Rimi? And today was no different. I made it to my seat without any issue and sat down. Soon after, I laid my head and arms face down on the desk, and from there I was safe until homeroom started. But I only got to relax for a split second before someone's hand clapped against my back.
Yo, Taku. 今週は3回も学校来てんじゃねえか。真面目だな。
Misumi-kun again. Even though he was really getting on my nerves, I'd feel bad if I ignored him, so I started to reluctantly raise my head, only to hesitate. Was this Misumi-kun the real one? 2 days ago, I'd done what the demon girl told me to do and called him. When I talked to him, he'd been very clearly acting strange. I mean, he told me Rimi was our classmate, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world, which I hadn't expected at all. Maybe the demon girl had brainwashed him, or maybe it was something else. Maybe the person controlling him had been switched out.
おい、どうした？早くも爆睡モードか？
An electronic sound suddenly rang throughout the classroom. I felt a faint vibration near my chest. It was my cell phone. Shit, now of all times? What kind of asshole would call at a time like this? And not only was my phone going off, but even though I was sure I'd set it to vibrate, the ringtone was going off too. I guess I must have messed up the settings.
鳴ってるぞ、タク。
Yes, I know, goddammit. Should I just answer it? But if I did, Misumi-kun would know I was faking being asleep. Besides, I didn't like talking on the phone. But also, if I didn't pick up, it would annoy the rest of the class, and considering how it was ringing loudly throughout the classroom, it had to be doing that already. I wasn't supposed to stand out. This was really, really bad.
おーい。出ないのか。マジで寝てる？
Damn it. While I'd been freaking out over what to do, I'd already lost my chance. I couldn't move now. Sound and vibration stopped. The call must have gone to voicemail. I let out a sigh of relief soft enough that Misumi-kun wouldn't be able to hear it. It was definitely the right call for me to have figured out how to use the voicemail function.
なあ、タク。相手は誰だ？まさか女か？この前一緒に帰ったあのメガネの子だろ。そうなんだろ？
Damn it, you're so annoying. I just wanted him to stop bothering me. That phone call had already made me stand out way too much. Had Misumi-kun always been this persistent? Though he had always been way too friendly with me, I thought he at least had the capacity to take a hit.
やめなよ。
Yeah, there she is. I heard a voice from right next to Misumi-kun.
そっとしておいてあげたら、大臣。なんだか疲れてるみたいだし。
She was here in my classroom, like it was the most normal thing in the world.
どうせゲームのやりすぎだろ。お前、タクに甘すぎるぜ。
It would make sense why it seemed like the Misumi is like way too friendly to my character. As if they had a friendship already. Is this related to that Nozomi thing? Like, is he getting, I don't know, are they like messing with his, what do they call it, biorhythm? So like he's having all these delusions?
だって大臣は女の敵だし、そういう人には優しくしません。
They were having a friendly conversation like it was the most normal thing in the world. She was blending in like it was the most normal thing in the world. I was too scared to look up. I didn't want to acknowledge that she was there.
ま、別にお前に優しくしてもらわなくても、俺には優しくしてくれる女はたくさんいるんだよ。
だから、そういう発言が良くないんだってば。彼女さんが聞いたら泣くよ。今の大臣の彼女が誰だかわかんないけど。ほら、チャイム鳴った。先生来るよ。
Had the demon girl really been my classmate all along? No, there was no way. She hadn't been here 2 days ago, or at the very least, the only person that had spoken to me that day was Misumi-kun. I hadn't gone to school yesterday, so I wasn't sure about that one. What if he, like, sleptwalked and went to school and had these relationships that he was not even aware of? But when I came today, she was here. How? How had she managed to worm her way in? Everyone took their seats once the sound of the bell announced the start of the homeroom. Sensing that, I looked up cautiously. I surveyed the room with just my eyes. I mean, she's gonna stand out. She's got bright pink hair. I wanted the voice from earlier to have been just an illusion. In order to prove that to myself, I needed to make sure the girl was nowhere to be found in the classroom. I didn't see her. I didn't see anything that even remotely resembled her. Did that mean she really was a hallucination? My seat was in the 5th row from the front. There were 9 rows in total. She wasn't in any of the rows in front of me, which meant she was behind me? But I couldn't turn around. I couldn't allow myself to stand out. I love the idea of, like, the reason he didn't notice her all this time is literally just because she was behind him. Because I'm assuming he's probably the type to, once he gets in class, he just stares forward, and he's not aware of anything behind him. And he just immediately runs out of the classroom once he's done, so he doesn't even look behind him at all. This was so frustrating. Was she really here in my classroom or not? I didn't feel chills on the back of my neck. No one was looking at me. I didn't feel a gaze. Was she here or not here? Which was it? Still staring at the surface of the desk, I tried to detect her by just her presence alone. Right as I tried, I heard my homeroom teacher enter the classroom. I didn't remember the teacher's name. I had a feeling it was Tsukaji or Sukada or something like that. He was a PE teacher that had graduated from an athletic college, and he was a total musclehead. However, he didn't really act like it, nor did he employ corporal punishment like one might expect him to. If anything, he was the type of teacher that knew how to take a joke. For some reason, the class all started murmuring about something, but right now I was occupied with trying to detect the demon girl. Did I really expect to be able to sense her by presence alone? This wasn't some manga. Was I an idiot? Oh, we got transfer student. Okay, this is gonna be that blonde girl, right? My homeroom teacher mumbled that to the class. Oh, so that was why the room was so noisy. You can't have one of these games without having at least one transfer student, right? I didn't hear the supposed transfer student say anything. Was there really one here? I glanced toward the door. Oh, she's so little! She's so small! Okay, I'm probably gonna get something perverted. I'll pick the green one. And sure enough, there was someone there. Part of me wanted to do the red one just to, like, see what would happen, but... She was extremely petite, possibly even more so than Nanami. She looked fairly timid, emulating that moe gets bullied all the time archetype. I had to choose. She was probably around mid-tier when it came to 3D girls. For some reason, she was looking down at the floor, her eyes filled with tears. Wouldn't it be nice if the transfer student were some holy messenger sent here to protect me and slay the demon? Whoever Rimi was, I had no doubt she was dangerous. My life was being eroded, and I knew that for a fact. Unless things changed, I'd be a dead man walking. Suddenly, the transfer student turned her gaze toward me and whispered that. No way. Even though the transfer student's eyes were welling with tears, they were also filled with determination. Despite her timid appearance, I felt like I could trust her. There was no doubt, from an outsider's perspective, her words were blatantly nonsensical. I was the only person in a sea of confused people who wasn't perplexed by her first words. In fact, I was screaming for joy, internally, of course. I'm saved. No doubt an exorcist organization sent this girl to dispose of Rimi. Fuck yeah, kill that bitch. Rimi's panicked voice rang from behind me. She gonna whip out a sword. Right now, I didn't care who the real demon was, nor who my real ally was.
僕はブラチューと演奏をして毎日を平穏に過ごせればそれでいいんだ。お前たちがどうなろうか知ったことじゃない。とりあえず二人で殺し合ってくれると助かる。で、相打ちで二人とも死亡ってエンディングを希望。
Following those words, I could feel a rising unease spread throughout the room. A transfer student whose real name I didn't know, and a demon girl who had only been in this class since the day before yesterday. Each glaring daggers at each other from their own separate corners of the room, the tension between them burning like a fuse toward a pack of TNT. The homeroom teacher and the rest of the students were on the edge of their seats, watching intently as the events unfolded.
いいよ。タクの言う通りにしてあげる。私も異論はないです。殺してあげろ。暗殺者。あなたを殺します、悪魔さん。
And then they both sprang into action. Aw, man, cuts out of the best part. Of course, something like that would never actually happen. The transfer student remained as sheepish as ever, not uttering so much as a peep. Rimi also didn't say a word. In fact, she didn't give any indication she was here at all. The scattered whispers grew to murmurs as the transfer student maintained her silence. So in order to comfort her, the teacher placed his hand on her shoulder.
どうやら折原は緊張しているようだな。よし、挨拶はいい。みんな、この子は折原梢だ。仲良くしてやってくれ。折原、席は一番後ろだ。席についていいぞ。
The transfer student made her way to the back without saying a word, keeping her head low to the ground. Her seat was 4 rows behind mine. Should I pretend to watch her so I could catch a glimpse of the people behind me? Problem was, that would draw a lot of unwanted attention to myself. I didn't want any DQNs trying to pick a fight, don't go staring at her just because she's cute, or some BS like that. I was at a loss for what to do. Should I look now, or should I wait until class was over? My head still firmly pressed against my desk, I squeezed my fist tightly. Forget it. I was a coward. Just the thought that if I turned around, my eyes would meet with that girl's sent shivers down my spine.
その人って
Huh?
悪い人なの？だったらね、本当に殺してあげてもいいよ。
The transfer student walked right by my seat. Taken aback, I glanced at her face. Our eyes met, only for her to immediately avert her gaze and continue walking. Okay, that was probably him just, like, imagining that, but did she, like, telepathically, like, say that to him? That was weird. What was that voice? No doubt it had been just another one of my delusions. I'd been feeling overwhelmed by them lately, almost as if reality and delusion were blending together. Still lacking the courage to turn around, my body stiffened even further, squeezing inward in my seat. I tried to focus on staying completely still, desperately trying to avoid drawing Rimi's attention. All my new fears and doubts zoomed through my mind at 1,000,000 kilometers an hour. Before I knew it, homeroom had ended. First period would begin in about 5 minutes. Misumi-kun rushed over to the transfer student's desk. Knowing him, he was going to try to lay the moves on her. The other students were clearly interested in her too, and the room had grown louder than usual. At a glance, it may have seemed like a casual, peaceful, ordinary thing. But for me, it was like being caught deep within enemy territory. My heartbeat was going crazy. Anxiety filled my head to bursting, and so much as lifting a finger felt like more than a one-man job. My brain was in the midst of a civil war, one side urging me to turn around, the other side warning me not to.
タク
My breath caught in my throat. My mind went completely blank. A voice had come from directly behind me. Oh my gosh, she was literally right behind him. She really was here. The girl really was here after
具
all.
合悪そうだけど平気？
I needed to run. I needed to run as fast as I could. Despite that, my legs were shaking so violently that I didn't think I could even stand. And while I was frozen solid, the demon girl, Sakihata Rimi, circled around to the front of my seat.
汗びっしょり。風邪でもひいたんじゃない？
Just like 2 days ago, she spoke as if she were concerned about me. Just like 2 days ago, she held out her floral-scented handkerchief. I didn't accept the handkerchief, hurriedly wiping the sweat from my forehead on my own.
なんて。
何？
I couldn't look her in the eye, but from how she spoke, I could tell she had a smile on her face.
ねえねえ、さっき何話してたの？
Oh, so she did say something. Rimi crouched down, resting her chin on her hands. Now at eye level with me, she peered at my face. I quickly looked away. Felt like the anxiety would tear my heart right open at any moment. Damn it, why wouldn't she just let me go? Someone please help me.
すっごく気になる。
What was she talking about? Who was she asking me about?
転校生。あの子がタクの机の横を通るときに小声でさ、ボソボソーっと。もしかして、あの子と知り合い？
She said something about wanting to kill me, right? Let me go back to the backlog. Are you a baddie? If you are, then Kozapi's A-okay with killing you. Rimi was still smiling. Was it just me, or was her tone more of a probing one than an actually curious one?
タクってリアルの女の子に興味ないんじゃなかったっけ？もしかして本当は興味あるの？
Where was she going with this? Was her plan to probe me for personal information and then exploit it for her own gain? At the end of the day, I really didn't give a damn about 3D girls, just like I always said in that sour voice of mine.
じゃあさ、私にも実は興味あったりする？
An icy chill ran down my back. Despite having just wiped the sweat off my forehead, I could feel I ran straight up the stairs without looking at anyone and came out into the empty roof. It didn't seem like she'd chased me. Even so, I couldn't allow myself to relax just yet, so I hugged my knees and decided to hide for a little while in the shadows. My knees were trembling. I couldn't believe that I'd managed to run in this condition. I guess it just showed how desperate I was. I was tired of this reality. The D sword I'd gone out of my way to buy hadn't been useful in the slightest. I obviously couldn't bring it to school with how much it'd stand out here, either. I'd been careless. 2 days ago when Misumi-kun had told me Rimi was our classmate, I'd figured he was either spewing bullshit or just outright deluding himself. But she really was my classmate, or at the very least, she had become one. There was no point in trying to figure out how she'd managed to worm her way in. She was a demon. She could do things humans were incapable of with ease. Maybe she'd brainwashed my whole class, or maybe she'd brainwashed all the teachers instead. I couldn't go to the hospital anymore, and now I couldn't go to school either. Meanwhile, Yua was at Cafe, and Shogun always appeared online. The demon girl and her underlings were no doubt getting closer and closer to me, continually hitting me with psychological attack after psychological attack as they did. Maybe I shouldn't leave my base at all anymore. There were enemies in danger at every turn in reality. They had disturbed me and threatened my peace, even though all I wanted was to live a quiet life bothering nobody and being bothered by nobody. I looked up at the blue sky. It floated calmly above me as the wind blew white clouds across its breadth. How nice would it be if I could become one of those clouds? Around 3 hours had passed. Oh, he was up here for 3 hours, damn. I had stayed in the same place the entire time without moving. I didn't sense anyone else coming up at the moment. I could finally breathe. The problem, however, was what came after. During break, there'd always be students that'd come up here to eat lunch. That was why the best way out of this was to escape during 4th period and make a break for my base. It messed up my minimum attendance chart, but I didn't possess even a single ounce of courage that would allow me to return to the classroom where the demon girl was. I decided not to worry about the fact I'd left my bag in the classroom. All I had in there were textbooks. My wallet, keys, and anything else important would be in my uniform pockets. I hoped. Growing slightly nervous, I searched my pockets. Wallet, keys, cell phone, they were all there. Oh, he also had that call earlier. Maybe he'll check the voicemail and see who that was from. That was when I remembered someone had called me. I had been pretty freaked out at the time, but not as much as when Rimi had talked to me. I wonder if it's the cops. I couldn't think of anyone who'd call besides my family. It would make the most sense if it was Nanami. She never thought about whether she might be bothering me after all. The only other people who'd know this number would be... Oh, that's right. I'd given it to the detectives. If it had been one of them, I really should have picked up. They still hadn't sent the officers to my base like they said they would, so I really needed to talk to them to make sure that was still happening. The caller's number was displayed on the screen. That's the same number as before, right? It didn't seem to be Nanami's, and when I looked closer I saw I had a new voicemail. I had the vague feeling I'd seen this number before. Just in case, I checked the call history. Ooh, alright. Well, we went good last time, so let's go bad this time. There were only 5 calls on the list. Which meant since I'd bought the cell phone, I'd only received 5 calls, 3 of which were from Nanami. That left 2 others. The one from earlier today and the one from 5 days ago were shown as numbers instead of names, as they hadn't been registered in my address book. They were both from the same number, 03X733X991. Considering they had gone out of their way to leave a message, it was probably someone who really wanted to tell me something. I guess I'd go ahead and listen to it.
楠木優愛です。ごめんなさい。 突然お電話しちゃって。ただ、どうしてもお話ししたいことがあって。セイラちゃんの新しいフィギュア、私も買いました。西条くんのおかげです。ありがとうございました。とっても可愛いんですけど、ちょっとエッチですね。買うときすごく恥ずかしかったです。あ、そうそう、今週のブラチュー見ました？すごい展開でしたね。私見ながらずっとドキドキしちゃって。この多重人格者、
Oh.
あなたが殺したの。
Oh my gosh, what would have happened if I had picked the positive one?
人殺し、真犯人、罪を償いなさい。逃がさないから。その目、誰の目？
I always feel a little guilty for picking the red option because I feel like I'm just spiraling him further into madness. Even though it had been my own delusion, I was terrified. It was entirely possible for Yua to have gotten a hold of my cell phone number from somewhere and called me after all. I didn't want to listen to the voice message anymore if I could help it. But since I'd already simulated the worst possible outcome in my delusions, I should have been able to handle it as long as I only had to listen and nothing else. Shaking off my depression, I set the message to play back. Then after checking multiple times to make sure the demon girl wasn't there, I put the phone to my ear.
こちらは留守番電話サービスセンターです。新しいメッセージは1件です。1件目、10月17日金曜日午前8時28分の伝言です。
なんぞこれ。
I wonder if that's like a sound to maybe make people go crazy. It's the, whatever that Nozomi thing, or what was it called? Like that thing. Maybe that sound is affecting people, and the reason he might not be affected by it, or hasn't been yet, is because he hasn't had a phone. So maybe they get people through their phone? Instead of someone's voice, there was an incredibly familiar melody. It felt like the sound was being recorded from a short distance away from the phone. Maybe the person on the other end was near a pedestrian signal. Now the thing is, they're saying it's very familiar. I don't know if I've heard it before. Oh, the song being played was one you'd hear pretty often at crosswalks. It was used in order to let people with visual disabilities know when it was okay to cross. So when Nanami was affected, it was at a street, right? And she almost got hit by the car, so maybe that's what it is. It's like they're using that sound at crosswalks to maybe affect people's mental state. The song was a nursery rhyme called You May Pass, also known as Torianase. While there were a lot of people that knew the melody, there weren't many who knew the lyrics. I was one of them, actually. I'd memorized them back in middle school. Then again, it wasn't like I remembered them perfectly. You may pass, where shall this narrow path take us to? It is the path to Tenjin's Shrine. Maybe this is that whole thing with, like, the religion? Please, oh please, will you let us pass? Those with no business will not be let through to celebrate the 7 years of this child's birth. We have come with an offering. Going may prove easy, but returning is... Once again, nursery rhymes being completely effed up when you listen to the lyrics. Nice to know that that's true all over the world. But returning is wee-oo, was what I'd heard from the phone. It sounded like an ambulance, which felt kind of like a bad omen. It likely didn't actually mean anything, but it still made me feel pretty creeped out. Yeah, same. I kind of want that to stop now. I don't like that. The second after the traffic signal melody got cut off, an extremely loud sound that sounded like a buzzer exploded from the speakers. It was so ridiculously loud I'd automatically shot the phone away from my ear. When I cautiously brought the phone back to my ear, the voicemail had already stopped playing. What was that? Right at the end, I thought I'd barely heard a roaring noise. It sounded like the ground itself was rumbling. That buzzer sound was completely separate from the pedestrian signal melody. Considering how loud it had been, the only thing I could think of was the phone's receiver deliberately been put up next to whatever had made that noise. My heart began to pound. Had I done something to make someone hate me enough to do that? Who'd even call me in the first place? I could call them back by dialing the number displayed on my phone, but there was no way I'd be able to call back a prank caller. In the end, all I could do was just leave it. Besides, I was stuck in the middle of a situation far worse than any prank call. I returned my phone to my pocket and ever so carefully left the school, making sure to pay close attention to my surroundings as I escaped. Well, things are just getting more and more hard to keep track of or to just understand. The big thing is that Rimi, the pink-haired girl, has shown up, and she is apparently a friend of mine. She's a friend of mine and Misumi. And my character has no memory of anything that we've done together, has apparently never seen this girl up until the day of the murder. And apparently, like, the three of us are, like, all good friends, hang out together, go see movies and stuff like this. My character has no memory of this. Then there was all that nonsense about this evil group, potentially something about a church and biorhythms and affecting people in Shibuya. There was that phone call at the end with that sound that I'm assuming they used to maybe hypnotize people, affect their biorhythms. I'm starting to sound like Takumi now. I'm like, it's a conspiracy. And then there's the transfer student who apparently telepathically said that if I'm a bad person, she's gonna kill me. It's just a lot. Every episode, it feels more and more like it's just a lot to take in, and I have no idea what's going on, and I'm starting to feel as crazy as Takumi does. So what else is there to say about that except I'm excited to see more of this. Will I get any answers next episode? Probably not, to be honest. Just probably be more confused. But shoutouts to my top tier patrons: Salieri, Revealing Storm, Amlife, Icognito, Saturn Sins, Doubless91, Harry Gazip, Kenju Storm, and Lynn's VA.